Good afternoon, Free Enterprise community, and welcome to this Week 1 round of 32 Adamant Cup brackets match between Dragus and Simbu, two runners who, between the two of them, have a grand total of exactly one loss in the entirety of the group stages, that being Simbu's loss to Rybon, one of the sort of favorites to make the round of 4 later in the tournament too. So these are two incredibly talented runners who are definitely going to put on an amazing show for us today. Joining me on the restream today behind the scenes is Scala Kitty on the restream itself, Alchemy on the tracking, and joining me on comms today is Deathlike. How are you today, Deathlike?
I'm good. Nice afternoon matinee for Free Enterprise is always a good time, and I like staring at names. Heron robe, best robe ever, right? Taking a look at the objectives, I see a bunch of moon. I see moon written all over it. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm more interested in what does the seed decide today? Are we going to have a hook route? Are we going to have magma? I'm always rooting for hook.
Yeah, I'm definitely rooting for hook here too, although we haven't seen what that 7th one is. Be doubly good if that ends up being the hook route. I think we're in for quite a long seed, relatively speaking, today. When you look at these objectives, you've got 4 different of those sort of terminal key items that need to be at the end of chains between the package, Sand Ruby, and both parts of Forge, in addition to the 2 moon objectives. So this could be quite a long run here.
Yeah, more key items, more required. There's just means more hunting bosses at spots that give a key item. It's that's the name of the game. But we have a Yang start. It's a favorite for some. Punch Mage popular for punching all the things with elemental hits. But we have a Palom, so that should help out. We got a Magma key start, so that should be good. So we should probably see a peek of what's underground, in addition to the free item check at Troya.
Absolutely. I'm interested in seeing how long our runners decide to try and fade out of both Sylph Cave and Fabul with that early Magma Key start, with the Pan as one of these objectives required for them. I think that kind of is going to incentivize wanting to stay away from those as long as possible. Maybe go down and at least prep Sheila 1 first. But on the whole, I think this is actually a really interesting start, as it looks like Simbu's going to go ahead straight underground.
I think it's probably want to check out the shops, see where your grind options are. Sirens are the big deal, and if you can get hourglasses and or some Bacchus wine, hopefully not hiding in the hook seed route, that would be that would get them at least give the opportunity, especially with the Yang start. Keeping the Yang towards the end of the game isn't the worst idea. You don't have to really look for too much equipment for Yang to get Yang started, outside of maybe hoping that the starting weapon isn't a Charm Claw.
Definitely, and it's always good to see Yang early on if you're going to get him, because that means he's going to get all those full benefits from every fight you get throughout the seed. Definitely an interesting potential start there. I'll be very, very interested in seeing if we find sirens. I'm kind of hoping that we get one of those sirenless seeds that I've heard so much about, but we'll see how that goes here.
If you get an early darkness crystal, then the opportunities are kind of endless. If you like to gamble on taking on a free behemoth, those are wonderful XP gains, but they punch pretty hard and are not something you want to take on without learning Blink. So you have at least, we haven't found a white mage yet, but an illusion or just a white mage, ideally Tella, to kind of get the grind options early is kind of the early part of the seed, where the characters you get, instead of having only one dupe, we get up to 3 dupes. And you know what? If you thought 1 Yang is not enough, how about four Yangs? That is a possibility because our best characters are taking a vacation. Lunarian vacation is a huge deal, and because they've been carrying quite hard, now you will need to find someone else to carry for them.
Definitely finding, however, on Simbu's side, down here in Dwarf Castle, we have Bacchus wines available for sale, so we already know those exist. We've got silk webs as well for dealing with that Z fight. Over on Dragus' side, we have just found sirens in this Feymarch shop, so shops are looking pretty good so far in this seed already. We've kind of found 2 of the, what I would say are like 4 big ticket tier 5 items you're looking for here.
Yeah, that's it's a boon when you have the siren. Egg grinds probably in the cards, at least even if it's a short grind. Just getting Palom just enough levels to get to Quake, if not get Quake. Probably with the second one, it's not too much, but still it certainly gets you ahead of the game, especially with a Yang. At this stage of the game, having Yang with levels will certainly make things easier, as if you're not looting, Yang becomes a lot more popular in these flag sets.
Definitely, and over on Simbu's side, we have seen down at the Tomra shop, there are coffins available, there are exits available as well. Great way of saving a little bit of time. It looks like Dragus is going to head over there and see those in shops as well. So this is a really good start for our runners. These shops underground have given us a lot of sort of those high-powered J items that you're really excited to see in a starter kit available for sale right away. So the question to me now becomes, how much are you willing to sell to try and use that early on in order to get a power spike? You could just like pop an egg real quick, like you mentioned for Quake, and be pretty well set up for the entire underground for quite a while.
I like the kind of gambles if you kind of do something say you have moon access and you have hourglasses on top of those sirens, then the 2 King Ryu grinds are really lucrative. You get enough money. You basically get the money to pay back whatever you need and get your money going without even needing to think about too much about the money part. Like, you'll still look at shops, see what they offer. Like, with a Yang, you're probably aiming for a Cat Claw, but you also want a Thunder Claw, everyone's favorite claw, and figure out on other things, like having maybe a heroine robe. But right now you don't have the characters, so you don't quite know what you're looking for yet. But just kind of accumulating wealth through looting is right now the goal for now.
Yeah, definitely. It does look like Dragus is going to go ahead and set up in order to get started on some eggs here. We did find a Poison Claw in that Tomra Treasury, one of the 2 strength increasing claws for Yang, so a very good thing to find. I would say probably like the 3rd best claw, just because of how good the Thunder Claw can be and the fact that Cat Claw is Cat Claw. But gonna go ahead and just take this egg right away. That's gonna get Palom up to at least the tier 2 spells, if not to Quake already, at least to Virus. So he's online. You can go ahead and take another one here and have Quake and be ready to go right now.
Yeah, pretty much doing the quick grind now will set up the overworld. Anything you do in the overworld, Palom will practically take care of it. If not, Yang will finish him off. So you're not kind of dependent on the characters you're gonna get. So if you get like a Rydia or Kane, who needs a decent weapon, they're not gonna be needed. They're not gonna be like critical, at least initially, until you actually get the loot or the shop that provides what you need.
Definitely. And speaking of needing to find things in order to get stuff down, Simbu checking those Feymarch bosses. We have an absolutely brutal Feymarch setup today with the good King Magus sisters, who can just really wreck your party in a matter of moments as long as you don't, well, if you're not careful. And Val at the Queen spot, not always the best thing. They could be worse, but it's not a really easy Feymarch, and I think our runners are going to probably try and fade that for as long as they can.
I don't think the Magus is too bad per se. I don't think they have the you already have. I mean, there's at least one Quaker. I'm not sure if both have done the grind yet. I think Simbu hasn't done it yet. Oh, Simbu's starting that grind. So you already have half of the mystery solved on the Magus strat. You have Quake Kid, you'll do Quake. You have half of it solved. Ideally, you'd have another character, maybe a Kane, or a heroine robe character with Elven Bow or Mute Arrows to supply the added offense. You're not really gonna expect Yang to do the work there. So for Val, Yang meets himself. That's might as well punch yourself. Wake up. Val on the Queen side. The Queen side isn't as punchy. I mean, the Jura spot isn't too bad. I mean, you'll still have all the Val shenanigans, like can't cast magic on her unless you have a cane to jump on her. I mean, it's not too bad. You probably want to be kind of at the power overwhelming level to take Val. Ideally, I mean, you can still do it early. It's just not as desirable unless you have a cane and you actually want to do jump strats, which not always the ideal strats. As every time you jump on her, she does counter with a punch if she doesn't fall from the jump.
Definitely, there's a lot of different factors to go in there. I would definitely be tempted to wait until I had some stronger attackers, because that is one of the perfect magic defense spots for Val. You will not be able to hit her with magic in any way, shape, or form unless, like you said, you interrupt that spin. So not the best prize to find down there. It's doable, but it is not what you want to see, which is a reasonably easy Fame Arch that you can just sneak in at some point. Dragus has gone through both that Sheila 1 check now and Fabul, and has managed to get a Legend Sword and a Cursed Ring. One of those is half an objective, and one of those is, to me, one of the best prizes you can find for a Zonk in these early on spots.
Yeah, Cursed Ring allows you to do pretty much anything. You get a lot more offense if you kind of curse Palom, make him the slowest, but you can pretty much override a lot of the penalty of the Cursed Ring with Palom's bluff. So having Palom, as your worst case anchor is actually a boon, because you still keep the offense while keeping everyone. You can still have everyone doing their thing. So we'll see who ends up being the anchor, but the Cursed Ring allows for a lot of options on the table, and Cursed Palom, my favorite.
Definitely, and if you don't want that Palom, we did have a possible other option for that Cursed Ring and a Sid on Mount Hobbs, but you've got to sit through a gauntlet for that. And while it may be quick with Quake, a gauntlet is still 5 fights you got to sit through, and Dragus is not interested in sitting through those fights for that Sid right now, and I can't really say I blame him in this case.
I think when you have Sid on the table, you already have the Cursed Ring, so you don't really need Sid to be the anchor, and Sid's potential offense is limited. You're not, if you're gonna decide making Sid the anchor, you can't use something like an Artemis, which negates the whole point of using the Cursed Ring is just making him slow. So you can't use your best weapons with Sid. It's just so, and typically that is like a bow and arrow setup, not. I mean, early game you have better access to hammers, which makes it effective as a berserker, but that kind of tails off because his weapon selection is not desirable. So when you're limited to bow and arrows, and Artemis bow is off the table, so effectively, if you're gonna use him as an anchor, not the most desirable. You probably can do better than Sid.
Definitely. The only thing that really would be in Sid's favor at this point in time is I know both our runners have found an Ogre Axe, but even then, that's not quite tempting enough to really make you want to invest that time in the gauntlet. But we have gotten a Darkness Crystal down here for defeating the D-Lunars at the bottom of Antlion Cave, and we're about to see what the free item is from the bedward check here in Troya. This seed is very, very wide open right now, and the question of where you go from here is a very, very interesting one because our runners have been in complete lockstep so far. Now they have every option open. Do they keep going in the same way, or do they just, go in different directions entirely?
For now, it doesn't seem. I mean, you could do an early moon dive, and I know people are like, yes, early moon dive, but I think given the completionist set and how things are weighted, moon dive may not get you what you want. It can, and there's a probability, but it's like, I don't know, less than 10%, and you can't. I mean, there may be a lot of trash seeds that will have kind of more interesting combinations of fun in quotes that would be more time consuming, and moon dive probably not something you want to gamble unless maybe if you're ahead. Right now this is just the first game this year, so something like this not as interesting, probably not the best thing to do, right? Even though the options are there, you could probably peak K value, hope for King Queen Evelyn, but that doesn't seem like a thing you want to do, at least in this earliest stage.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, it's kind of like what you're hitting on there is that this is a different environment than groups, not just in the flag sets, but in terms of the format. We're into best of 3 matches now instead of best of 1 matches. And there's, to me, 2 different sort of lines of logic there. If you think that you will lose to your opponent, then I would probably say that that's going to be making you more likely to gamble on game 1, and maybe you stick to your guns on games where there's more on the line. But if you're kind of thinking that you're even with your opponent, you might as well just play your best game in game 1 and hope it's enough, and then go from there. And I think these are 2 runners that are going to think, you know what, my opponent is pretty equal to me in terms of skill level. I think that's kind of a good assumption for all of our matches in this tournament at this point. And in that case, I really don't think that we're going to see too many big gambles in this match specifically, although I am very eager to be possibly proven wrong as we see Rydia is holding this tower key in Baron Inn.
Yeah, tower key is a nice reward. I think the gamble is kind of what the routing that they decide to do. So right now they have the levels to do anything, but they really want to pick up the characters. I mean, we'll have Iridia. I don't know we've picked up a worthwhile summon for Iridia, but she could be the anchor. Well, I don't think that's I think if we can find like a Leviathan or Bahamut, even a Scythe, then Rydia will probably be kept around a bit longer. It really depends. Right now, it looks like Dragus is deciding maybe go for the Moonbite, get the last character. Even if it's a bard. Hide strats for certain bosses, especially depending on what melee. Maybe like a rude Odin or a rude DKC. Having more options on the table, at least to be able to navigate through the seed, often becomes more valuable than that time. You have to go back and forth. That sometimes just doing that is time gained in a way.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of been the theme of this tournament to me so far, is that these seeds end up being kind of like a ripple effect, a butterfly effect throughout it of what your early choices mean an hour from now, an hour and a half from now, when you're reaching the end of the seed entirely. I think there is some merit to getting Iridia this early and possibly wanting to try and get to reflect strats later on Zeroma's fight. That way you don't have to worry about hunting for gear. All you need are levels, which you have access to. You're kind of just farming for sirens at that point. Simbu looks more committed possibly to this Rydia going in here to this Dwarf Castle check, which in the most recent update, in the 4.5 update to the randomizer, now gives random summons instead of just the, base Rydia has grown into an adult summons that it used to give, and with this officer and soldier fight it'll be pretty free anyways. This could be that Bahamut or Leviathan summon that would get that Rydia fully online and make her a really huge asset early on.
Yeah, I don't think Bahamut is provided. I think it's Leviathan is I think it's weighted a bit. That Leviathan, there's a chance of Leviathan on the table, which is ideally what we want. For something, even a Siphon Azura might be sufficient. Well, it depends on when we find out. So, but then we get the character check before getting the list of summons. So, and we know who the boss is here, so that's not too bad. Hey, that's an interesting pickup. So Dragus picks up a cane on the moon, and we have an edge in the dwarf castles. So this is already becoming diverging very and can be really interesting. Don't know. Probably Quake will probably be able to take care of it. We'll try to do some life lock strats where you want to attack Azura when she's purple, as that casts life 1 and then rotates to the next phase. So although you can probably just do power overwhelming, like just kind of do kind of input 3 different attacks. Starting leads off with the Quake. It's way more than enough. Never mind. It's good enough. Looks like Rita is going to be the anchor for Simbu.
Definitely. The only thing that might be giving him pause is that we did find that Leviathan there in that group of summons that we got. So if you were wanting to get that Rydia online, get her a few levels to get her the MP, she can carry a lot of those fights so far. Possibly you just hope that you find a different person to slap that cursed ring on later and deal with. If you want to go back and grab that Sid and use him as an anchor on the floor, slap a cursed ring on him, you'll be fine. Meanwhile, Dragus has decided to take a very, very interesting moon play early on, headed down looking to try some King Ryu's. Unfortunately, going to take a reset out of it and finding Evil Wall at that cave value spot, which is not very exciting. Meanwhile, a pass over on Simbu's side. So a nice thing to find, especially now that you know that you can take that moon dive and then be done with the moon forever.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Dragus had kind of the worst case HP being even, so double blitz means death, as blitz itself deals half of the max HP of the characters. So that's 100% damage, since rounding does not favor that combination. So it is kind of tough to take on the King Ryu's this early, and because not just because of the punches, but it's the kind of, it's hard to take down a lot of HP, especially at this level. Quake could probably be enough, but there's just a lot of things that have to go well, and the lightnings go off again, and yeah, that's a reset on Dragus. That's not I'm not sure I'm not sure what quite happened. No, I survived. Okay, that's almost a reset. Could have been a quandary if that reset had to happen.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe we did find hourglasses in the Hummingway shop, or at least got an hourglass elsewhere. So this is free at this point, as long as we don't make this take basically the entire length of the stream. So, it's not just the experience to me that would make me want to take these King Ryu's early, and this might be playing into Dragus's thought process here, but King Ryu's give a lot of money early on, and right now we're in a seed where we know we have Bacchus wines, we know we have sirens, we know we have hourglasses, we know we have coffins. There's a lot that you want to throw money into. Just getting the raw value out of these in terms of the just gold drop is, to me, the real prize here.
Yeah, you're buying a cat claw was 30,000 per. Having Gungnir is 66,000. They're pretty petty to to kind of get your berserkers at peak weaponry at least. And probably doesn't need two. Probably needs at least the minimum one. But having Kane I don't know if we found a Gungnir in any shop, but if that were the case, Gungnir is like essentially kind of like its attack power, 92% of his best weapons. So I'm not really Kane doesn't need the best spears. I mean, a Gungnir which is a tier 5 weapon, is more than enough to complete a seed.
Definitely. We have seen Gungnirs in the Dwarf Castle shop, but I don't believe Dragus has checked the weapon side. If he goes back to do that check, which will give him that pass, he might go back for it. But here's the question on Dragus's side. If you are going through that Dwarf Castle check, who do you possibly replace for that edge at this point in time? And I would think that, De Jong might be a good choice. The Kane might also be a choice. I kind of am tempted to keep that Jong at this point in time because I like having that utility from that raw health. So there's a lot of different options that Dragus will be able to take just from the knowledge that he has that Simbu has not had going the sort of more conventional route, and having a very interesting time in this tower, hitting the King and Queen Evelyn spot at the Cannon Room and then finding Golbez here at the Dr. Luge spot.
Our Free Enterprise Joker is at it again. He's laughing at his seed. That's what it is. I think for Dragus, we have a cursed ring. I would just ditch the Rydia. Just if that were like that's assuming we find at least longs, but buying a pair of ninja blades is a very expensive for effort. Each blade is 66,000 GB, which is same as Gungnir, except a Gungnir by itself is strong enough. You need having edge at peak performance requires kind of having both, or at least having a ninja blade plus even a mute knife or a full moon is good enough for as a second weapon. So, but in terms of like kind of funding the war effort, it's pricey to get every character their best weapon. You might even just thinking of about that, you just forego buying Yang a weapon. You don't even need to do that. Just spend it on Kane and Edge and call it a day. Assuming Dragus even goes to Dwarf 1. Or Dwarf as a whole.
I think at this point in time, Dragus just picked up 10 hourglasses in that shop, in the Hummingway shop. I'm wondering if Dragus is thinking about shopping at all at this point in time instead of just going for that. I mean, there is a chance that they're just he's just saying, I'm going to just tab over to this 10 button. I'm not going to mess with the quantity. I'm just going to buy a bunch of hourglasses, which, sometimes is good. If you're flush with cash, you don't need to worry about it. You might as well take fewer inputs, lose fewer frames to it. Every second counts in a race. Or could be thinking, you know what? I'm going to use these hourglasses. I'm going to do a lot of trap chests in these seeds and try and get the most value I can out of every single one of those checks. Use those to get myself a bit of XP, as well as hopefully hit on something good for this Kane, or once he does Dwarf Castle, that edge that he probably will get at some point.
Interesting climb for Dragus. Hey, is this vanilla or is this French vanilla? We'll see in a moment. Oh, it's French vanilla. That's all right. But that's for Simbu. The spell Golbez at this spot is not the brightest of gold. Not brightest of Golbez. You're not afraid to take on this spot, primarily because the spell multiplier is I think just 1 or 2 at best, and so you're not really concerned about Golbez kind of magic doing destructive magic on you. The magic isn't scary enough to worry about. And nope, that we'll see what this spot gives. Oh, hey, it's a pan. This is required.
That is a very, very good prize for Simbu in terms of just taking this underground series of checks, and that will give him objective number 2 all ready to go. We are now actually about, I think, 4 key items away from go mode over on Simbu's side. We still need that package. We need a hook and a rat tail, and we need an adamant rock. And I guess we need a sand ruby, so that's 5 away. he's in really good shape right now, and I think he's going to continue to kind of just keep going through all of these. I think he wants to hit 10 key items before he goes anywhere else at this point, because there's going to be a lot of experience available to him once he gets to that point. He can really easily hit that with what he has now.
Yeah, ideally you want to kind of defer as much time, spending most of your time on the earth, doing your overworld and underground checks and trying to collect as many key items until you are required to do moon, and hoping that you have arrived at 10 key items. I mean, double XP, nothing to scoff at. It means essentially one less siren that you have to spend getting the same amount of XP, except you're spending twice as much time trying to pick that up. So it's time saved. Yeah, that's not the key item. Not the key item, but it's hey, it's money. Good enough for now. And I think Dragus is trying to. Looks like it's just doing Dwarf 1 now.
Yeah, did not get anything good out of Mount Ordeals there. Simbu probably not quite happy seeing the word Earth pop up on his screen, and then realizing that it is the Earth Hammer and not the Earth Crystal that he might have hoped for that would lead him down more rabbit holes. But gonna go ahead down here, check the Sylph Cave check at this point in time. Has 2 more, I think, to go, because I don't believe he's gone back to Fabul yet. And we'll see what these last 2 get here. That is a ribbon. Sheila 2 is the only non-zonk possible on this pan chain, but either way, this is required.
Yeah, so you usually can't really expect too much from the pan bonk on Yang as part of the K summon, so it's not in favor of waiting towards that. But having it under Sheila 2 is more likely to gain something. But then again, so far it's a cursed ring, which is still valuable, but not a key item. So it is still possible that decent key item can be provided at Sheila 2, and oftentimes it is the case. Hey, yeah, here's your sealed cave access. We're not sure yet that it is required, but we're probably going to check at some point or fade it.
I'd be tempted to check it right now. I believe we have warp already, and so we have an easy way of getting out of that sealed cave. You can just drop a save on the outside, go down, see what that ends up being in terms of the key item, and then, see who the boss is, see if you want to bother with it, if you were tempted to keep it. Does look like Simbu's going to go for the Mount Ordeals play instead. Meanwhile, over on Dragus' side, doing this Dwarf Castle and finding that edge, like you said, electing to get rid of that Rydia at this point in time and just take edge. I think what's sticking out to me, though, with these 2 parties is I don't see anyone who can cast any sort of healing or support spells right now, and that's a bit of a scary situation to be in at this point in time when you're sort of running out of character checks unless you find another one sitting around here somewhere.
I mean, the kind of the character checks that are kind of on the table are like one from Package or the Sand Ruby. Sand Ruby being preferred at this point because you're not required to complete the entire thing to although Package is fully required, but from a character check perspective, you don't want to be Sand Ruby is a faster check, even though Package is fully required. So right now, I think Power Overwhelming might be the theme of the day, given what we have as characters. All fully offensive characters. You can power overwhelm through most things. So the only really threatening one, at least has already been dispatched early, in the form of Ogo. Probably the only one that we would really be concerned of at this point would probably be a Kanazo at a high HP spot.
Yeah, definitely. My big question to me now is, in Simbu's case, he has Quake Kid, has that Rydia for anchoring. When does he go back to the Fey March? He seems a bit better set up for it than Dragus is. Dragus doesn't really have any way of, making sure that the incredibly high agility of those two locations isn't a problem. But Simbu could actually go for it, and what ends up being at those two spots might matter a lot just from that raw difference in terms of that. Dragus is going to find this shop here, going to pick up the Full Moon. There are ninja swords available as well. There are Gungnir's available. Dwarf Castle really living up to its smithing reputation today.
All dwarf weapons all the time. Good dwarven steel. I love it. There's a better shop for further south from Dwarf Castle, but still need the other piece of the puzzle to gain access to that. So I'm not so concerned, but probably not shopping at that point. You're probably gonna buy all your weapons from Dwarf Castle and like it. I think. Not sure Simbu has done Sheila 1. I know Dragus did Sheila 1, so I think that might be the difference at this point, because not having the cursed ring will make the ditching Rydia more of a reluctant. Dragus can still put in a cursed Palom as the anchor and still be relatively functional. So I think Dragus is actually, they're both set up but in different ways, and I think it's probably better for Dragus because he has more offensive potential. Still probably requires still a grind to be had, because having Val and Maga Sisters I don't think we've seen a mute knife available or bought yet, so that makes Edge kind of less effective. The boomerang from the form of the full room will definitely help, but mute knives are the best toolkit against Maga Sisters.
Yeah, we do know that Simbu does have that cursed ring, has done both Sheila checks at this point in time, getting that Luca key for it, and he is turning in right now, so we will see what this sealed cave check ends up having. I do think that in some ways Dragus is also set up, just like you mentioned, from that increased damage, but we haven't really found an excellent use of that cursed ring yet. We haven't found a bearer of it that's going to be amazing. It's like you mentioned earlier, you can get around it with Palom by just bluffing to push his magic power back up, cast spells that way, but when you think of I need a character that's good with a cursed ring, you don't think anyone in this party is your first or even second or third choices at this point. So they might be both at this point kind of hunting for a character who's going to be a bit better with that, maybe even a Tella.
Yeah, Sid is usually a top option, but since he's under the alt gauntlet, that doesn't seem so really appealing. It's better if it was kind of on your way, but you've already done the checks have been done, so and it's just there's no reason to do it. So it's kind of hard to justify. Hey, here's a required thing in the sealed cave, and let's see what wonderful boss is trying to stop you from taking that away. In this spot, there's a lot of magic, a lot of spell power, and hey, your best, punchiest boss. Hello Bagan.
Bagan is not great when we don't have access to Blink. This is where we really wish we had a white mage right now. You gotta hope that whatever you're throwing out in terms of that, we have Palom to take out the arms. It won't be too bad, but you're gonna spend a lot of time throwing out cure potions in this fight in all likelihood with this particular party setup, which might slow it down a little bit. This being exactly Rat Tail, though, creates a very, very interesting situation where now the only things left on the table for our runners will be taking on those two Feymarch bosses, King Maga Sisters and Queen Valvalis, or heading back up to the moon, doing a full moon dive, or taking on that evil wall at Bahamut. So there's kind of a wealth of not great options here. And with Palom down, I'm not sure this Bagan fight's going to go particularly well for Simbu at the moment.
Yeah, Yang that can't really take on the back row. The right arm is considered in the back row. There's actually a lot of surprising back row bosses, like even Dark Imps, where any imp that is not in the middle spot, if the visual middle, they're in the back row. So they're so they're and Yang will have kind of a bad time. Edge not so much. Boomerang, having a boomerang kind of solves a lot of problems. I mean, it has the same power level as a longsword, but back row, very key important change in the brackets flags compared to group flags. Makes kind of your decisions on who to put in the front row much more important, and having the equipment to support like a back row edge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are full moons available in that Dwarf Castle shop. You could stock up a full moon, you could grab a ninja sword. Edge will probably take care of it pretty well. The problem is that this boss is very uniquely annoying for this setup we have. You can't just berserk, because then Yang just hits the back row, doesn't do anything with it. That would be a problem on groups or on bracket flags. You can't really berserk the edge without, well, I mean, if you have the full moon, you can, and then he'll be fine. You need to keep Palom alive, but Palom probably falls over to 1 or 2 punches, and you don't really have access to blink to avoid that. So I don't want to say that this is like worst case scenario for Simbu here, finding Baigen, but I'm having a difficult time thinking of any other boss that we haven't already seen somewhere else that would be more annoying here, short of that Keinatsu.
I think usually if you leave Quake Kid alive, then Baigen doesn't really do much other than just try to revive his arms. So then you'll have Edge to take care, although Edge will eventually randomly hit one of the revived arms on its own. So it's kind of lost DPS. But Yang being probably the least effective is probably is going to be your chemists for this match and this battle, and makes the most sense having Yang randomly hit things not productive. Edge will still at this point in this, even with all the having the early levels, still not the better character. But will be tanky enough to take the occasional punch. So that's where his value lies here. It's kind of interesting. That the kind of loss in damage. As Radia is going to be the anchor, and taking the nap. So, Dragus can do kind of the same thing with this party. Probably Quake Kid not being as effective, because you still it will be a little bit of a setup that is required for Palom to get back up to enough strength to quake the arms away. So it will be different when Dragus approaches that fight.
Definitely. Simbu, however, seems to have made this very stable here and has gotten through, berserking up that edge, using that Yang to just throw potions, using Palom's, just waiting on Palom's turn, throwing out those quakes the moment the arms spawn, getting through with ease. It's a little bit annoying, but not anything that you can't work your way around, as Simbu's just proven, and he's going to walk that rat tail out of here and be facing the next options. Does he go to the Fey March, or does he go to the Moon?
I think about the characters and their levels. I'm more tempted to say to heck with the Fey March. Let's just go moon diving, get our levels there, then come back. I mean, both spots not ideal. Fading them for now probably may be a better choice. It's just from the party compositions that are available to us and what our runners have. So right now it's not that appealing. I think you need essentially more levels. At least get a grind, either do it by the moon or you just get the grind down now before taking on the Fey March spots. And the moon has kind of equal weight relative to the summon spots. So it's probably makes more sense from from a gambling perspective to dive moon rather than do Fey March, unless Fey March has all the things, in which case it's the gamble.
I think it's one of those examples of pass kind of manipulates how you play and party comp kind of manipulates as you play, as Blue Cat Loach just pointed out in chat. Without a white mage, that Val is not going to be a fun fight. There's no way to make it a fun fight. You interrupt her spinning, she punches you, and you're done. You don't interrupt her spinning. She casts weak, punches you, and you're done at this point in time. And that is a very, very rough situation. It looks like Simbu is going to go ahead and go to the moon here. I really like this play. With that pass in hand, if we can clear out that moon while we're up there, that's the moon done. You don't have to go back at any point in time at any way, shape, or form. And also important to that too is we only have a grand total of 7 key items on the board. You'll probably hit 10 key items on the moon, and with a lot of the difficult bosses out of the way, you're looking at a pretty easy way of getting a good number of levels just through getting those moon bosses down, if you're not just, using a bunch of sirens on King Ryu's with the easily available hourglasses in that Hummingway shop.
I think the biggest slowdown left will probably still be Demas. That's still on the table. That's probably the only boss runners do not want to see, but we'll probably see. Outside of that, I'm not. There really isn't too many bosses left remaining. Dragus finding a light sword, so that's going to be cash. For Simbu, I'm leaning towards Simbu not taking the cane, but we'll see because Dragus did the early moon check for the character and took the cane to replace Theridia. I don't think the same decision is going to be made because of how much time Simbu spent on the Earth with essentially Raida being the anchor. So we'll see how that turns out. But Dragus is probably going to have a little easier time. We'll see how it turns out with the fight with Baigen at the Evil Wall spot.
Definitely. And speaking of Evil Wall, I think that's going to be one of the big questions of this particular moon dive here is how do you deal with that Evil Wall at Bahamut? Maybe it becomes easy by the time you're done with the rest of this moon, but there might even be a situation in which you consider trying to save scum something you found on the moon and head back down. I don't think that would necessarily be the right play, but I can see a world where either of our runners would see that Evil Wall sitting at Bahamut and go, maybe I can finish this seed without dealing with that at any point in time.
Looks like Simbu decided, hey, I do want that king too, and probably remembering some the Gungnir from the shop. As Simbu did more earlier shopping. So right now it's Kane is going to be the temporary anchor. I think just need the levels, need the King Ryu grind. So I see where this is going. So right now, and it should still be doable. I mean, having the hourglasses on hand with the sirens should allow the opportunity. It looks like only one hourglass, so it's just going to be one and done. Hoping this hourglass gets off in time, and that's good. Still be a whiles away for being kind of ready to take on moon bosses. Although Hairdryer's chest is a nice thing to pick up while doing this. It's one of those. Hey, it's kind of one of those easy access single access trap chests on the moon that will still give you a chance for the adamant. Not something that you want to kind of aim for, but something that you could do instead of before, like doing the King Ryu. Maybe just do that before doing this. Sometimes locality of these kinds of options on the table can be valuable, but doesn't. I mean, assuming you're looking for like a power spike, even if it's not an adamant armor, that sometimes can be worthwhile.
Definitely. I mean, we haven't really seen these trap chests come into play in these seeds, and that may be in some ways kind of the tale of what we've managed to find so far. We found a lot of just raw power through levels, through items so far, and then good enough items through the actual shops in Dwarf Cave or Dwarf Castle and like that. So maybe that's sort of playing into things. I don't think Simbu knows that we have those hourglasses in the Hummingway shop yet. I don't believe he checked it on the way in here, but is only going to take that. Not even going to bother checking the boss down here in Cave Value, just going to go head over and do some shopping.
No, knowing what we know, no, rather not know until you have enough power to face it. I mean, the freest of free bosses, King, Queen, Evelyn, have already been in the most the freest of boss spots. So when that's off the table, you're kind of more reluctant to gamble on something like that. But hey, having all that cash from that quick grind from King Arius, hey, a stack of your best hourglasses, please.
And it looks like it is time for that moon dive. We have a good number of, well, not a good number of, we have 3 bosses that those hourglasses are still good against as well, still on the table that could be down in the subterrane. We have not yet seen the Baron Guards, we've not yet seen the Dolls, and we have not yet seen the Dark Imps, so those might also be sort of weighing on the mind of our runners once they get down there. Having a few extra hourglasses will take care of all 3 of those fights very easily. Simbu, I'm interested in seeing, is he going to do the top-down moon play or the bottom-up moon play? It looks like he's going to go bottom-up and just head straight to those objectives first.
I actually like, I would call skimming off the top, just doing the Myrrh altar. I mean, actually, Myrrh is still required, but I think this is for trying to get to the 10 key items and then doing the grind first. So, I'm saying, Ribbon Room, then Plague Spot, then Ogre Spot, then at least in that vein of mine, just to get the 10 key items, and then start the real grind to get Palom to level, to nuke status, level 52. So, and that should get Kain up to a reasonable set. Although I think Kain is still the anchor and will probably remain that for a while. Not too big a deal, but I guess right now, Kain, I don't think that'll be the same thing in Dragus' position, but this just for the purposes of Simbu having an anchor, this is kind of like Kain is he'll contribute as potion dealer, chemist. That's best job that not underrated. Always need one.
Speaking of potions and like that, Dragus is stealing some Bacchus wines from these mad ogres here. Might have run out of money from just how much we spent in terms of the seed, just wants to get them for free, has elected to take these out of this Castle Eblin here, maybe see if he can spike a good item along the way. Simbu, meanwhile, has looked at that White Spear altar, or was it the Ribbon Room, and found a Dark Knight Cecil, which is not a great prize to find here, but at least we have Yang to get you through this, as long as we get that first cure potion off.
Yeah, if you don't have a Sid, Yang is your next best HP tank, and we'll probably decide to revive the Edge, because Edge will scale probably better with a pair of ninja swords. So makes a lot of sense. The Pain Man here, not happy to see at any spot, but when you have a Yang with the levels, you're at least feeling happy it's over and done with.
Well, Dragus did at least find a very, very good bit of money from that, finding an Excalibur out of that chest, or you could dart it at something later on down the line. Simbu, on the other hand, finding that required hook out of Ribbon Room, so there's another required moon altar. We're up to 3 out of 5 there so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking about Simbu's group, and I'm thinking the kind of the approach of doing this makes a lot of sense. We're kind of, I think when Dragus is stealing for Bacchus wine, when you have a lot, and when you're like Berserkers dependent, spending money in just Bacchus wine is it's like buying the kind of the key disposable items that you just have to keep paying for, and makes you wish you had a white mage. This probably isn't providing that. They're probably lodged behind Giant or both Package and Sand Ruby. So this is kind of there will be those seeds where you're the white mage you need just to kind of bring relief to kind of money woes, or just you don't want, like, you're not spending money. You're not spend any money on illusions when you have berserkers. You just don't have like the time, the turn economy, or let alone the money to do it. So it starts to become one of those how do you best spend that money, and where else do you get that value from? So I'm fairly sure that these characters are essentially their final set for Z. The question becomes where the resource, maybe hoping for a late Tella, to replace a character, maybe Yang or Kane, and just to kind of bring relief to the kind of the item usage that has been kind of the struggle, a little struggle.
Definitely, we did get through that plague spot. Meanwhile, Vanilla Plague not really giving anything too exciting there, and finding a Pale Dim down here at the Masamune altar and deciding not to bother right now.
I don't think, outside of Quake Kid, I'm not sure what Simbu's cane is wielding, but it's probably nothing good. I think Yang probably has a Poison Claw at best. I don't know. It's probably just too beefy a spot for that party. Especially Simbu's Cade is not even up, kind of like on par with the rest. So it kind of muddies the damage that is done. Where Dragus not gonna have the same problem. It looks like Dragus has found free in, I think, the Mura spot.
Definitely. Another thing worth noting too is that Pale Dim, all Pale Dim does is punch, which is great when you can afford those illusions, great when you have access to blink, not so great when you're facing the second hardest hitting physical spot on the moon, second or third, depending on which way you're looking at it. And you don't have access to any of those. You have no way of mitigating that incoming damage. So it might just be one of those ones where Simbu's making the smart play of, I don't have a way of getting around that. I'm willing to gamble. This Masa altar is not required. Meanwhile, up at that required altar that Dragus just did, finding that pink tail, here is the question. You've just started your moon dive. You're sitting on these characters. Are you tempted to go back and turn in those tails and get that adamant armor before continuing? It looks like Dragus is saying no. I tend to agree, but it would be an option available to him.
I think if I think Simba would do it, due to Simbu's current party comp in terms of levels, Dragus doesn't need it because Kane has been in the party longer and has the weapons. So Dragus doesn't need it. Simbu, if the roles were switched, Simba would more likely do that. At least you need someone to be able to tank, and oh hey, a harp. How quaint.
I think we're definitely checking that harp at this point in time, regardless, just because we still have 2 terminal key items that are required. Well, 3 actually, Sand Ruby package and that Adamant Rock. And Simbu is already committed to not getting that Masamune altar done. So he'll go back in for the Murasame altar, end up getting that pink tail. The question is, does he try and sneak out that evil wall, or does he just go straight back, knowing that he might have to come back to this moon, because it's kind of looking like those are pretty close to required at this point. We still have the Fey March, we still have the 2 different checks from Baron, but odds are starting to look like at least one of those is required at some point.
Yeah, I think on average, there's something like at least an objective and a key item required on the moon, even though the probability of that is kind of spread towards having, since K summon is on, so they're actually the kind of probability between a summon and moon is about the same, although the excess is different because moon dive is literally LSD dive. The summon is different. I mean, you have the boss spots where for Azura, Leviathan, um, Basement of Baron, and then the Scythe, which is very, very accessible, but you need a pan, and the and Bahamut spot. So it's easier to like kind of swallow a moon dive than to try to do kind of things out of the way, so to speak. Like LST is a large dungeon, and all your bosses are contained there, and it's easier to kind of do that instead of trying to do something like cave value. Well, once in a while, if you're trying to spike a key item, then doing cave value makes sense. It's like kind of doing the Mura altar early, and then before doing a bottom up type of run. So, but simbu will get the 10th key item, so the grind is essentially will effectively be available, and given it's the pink tail, you might as well cash in and then do the awful Fame March bosses, as I think the density there becomes a lot more palatable. I guess grind is now.
I mean, you got a Siren, you're already on the moon, you got this Kangaroo spot, you could use a lot more money to get that real economy that you need to get through this seed going, because again, everything that we need, we have to buy. We need cure potions to get through this final fight. We need Bacchus wines to get our berserkers really rolling. We need a lot of stuff, and just taking these Kangaroos is really important. You know, this is a real good example of sometimes these Kangaroos might not really be about the levels as much as they're about just the raw income at this point.
Yeah, it's like 50,000, some absurd amount of money. You need to fund your war effort. You need to punch all the things. You will need money, especially getting Kane. Like just getting Kane to Gungnir drastically improves his offense. So, and also paying for Edge, just equally, if not more important, as Edge will get you the DPS you really want towards the end game. Yang. When he gets the levels, he gets the levels. You don't even need a cat claw. Cat claw's nice. It's not even hard required unless you have a lot of spare money and you don't mind spending it all on Yang, right? But right now it's funding primarily Edge and Kane, and optionally Yang in that order, just to get them really online.
I think at this point, you kind of maybe even give up on punching too many things with Yang once we get into that end game. You know, Yang is the punch mage, and in this particular setup with this party, he might have to be the punch white mage and just, you know, sit back, have his giant HP pool, have his cure potions ready to go, and just be throwing those for most of that fight. And that might just be the way you get through it at this point. So I think you're right, definitely. It's hard to stomach wanting to spend too much money on this Yang, because chances are you're actually going to not be doing as much punching with him as you'd hope anyways.
Yeah, here's vanilla, trade in Rat Tail for Adamant. Yeah, who would have thunk that? One of the things that, at least from ideal Berserker endgame, for me, honestly, is Edge and a Kane. And Kane, you know, for you know, kind of his limitations in weapon choice, he has a decent HP pool, decent level curve, and I would call the I mean, in some cases you would say Edge is the utility. Has also a lot of utility in weapon options. Like you have all the claws for elemental weakness. But for all the heavy armor you actually ever get access to, or at least heavy weaponry, Kane is at least tanky enough. Like it's not like HP tanky, but like equipment tanky. So if you get all a bunch of decent Dragoon pieces of equipment, Kane is a solid, I would call utility berserker. You have, of the things, it's different from Edge. Edge is still, Edge is going to be the strongest berserker in virtually most seeds. I mean, outside of say Spoonward with Adamant, Kane's utility is pretty consistent. Let's just say, compare like Edge, you're kind of dependent on hoping you have the money or at least the access to the weapons he gets. Kane, not so reliant, even though the damage might not be, where you'd want it to be end game. It's different, but I think we're gonna do some music pretty soon.
Definitely. There's not too many things we can randomize outside the scope of bosses, but one of them is the heart tune that gets played here at the bottom of Cave Magnus. Once we get this Palom knocked over here, we're going to have a little bit of cutscene time before we get there, so it is about to be time to listen to the wonderful, wonderful strains of Edward's harp and see what we've got today.
Yeah, harp music is kind of like soul music of sorts. There's just so many songs, and leave it to DJ Spoony B to play his tune.
Well, there goes Bahamut, and what is the reward in this case? Just a samurai hat, so that twin harp is not required. That is a very, very scary zonk to see on Simbu's side, because he only has the Fey March left, that Ogo Pogo altar way down at the bottom of the moon, and Cave Value, which is sitting behind an evil wall. So that is not a good sign for Simbu. Dragus is going to take another stab at this Pale Dim here. Another really good chance that this ends up being something that's required for this seed. I am a bit worried for Simbu's chances here if Dragus hits something out of this fight.
Yeah, usually you're not worried about a Pale Dim, but I think the issue may be that not having some sort of piece of dragoon type of equipment to reduce them, just like a crystal ring, would probably be kind of the item which kind of doesn't invalidate Pale Dim, but makes the berserker of choice or the character of choice, like maybe a Palom, to weather the storm of being punched by Pale Dim, as Pale Dim's primary trade is in watches, in casting counter slow for any damage taken, and obviously you'd want to avoid using summons unless you have float. You can't use any elementals, as that also isn't a good thing. So kind of negates a Yang, generally speaking, if you don't have if you don't have a poison claw or a cat claw. So, and Kane, depending on Kane, should be okay. But it looks like Simbu has decided to take on Magus Sisters, which is an interesting decision. I think it looks like Edge will probably do most of the work with Palom. Yang probably going to be doing potions, as Simbu has determined. Kane, not very effective. Did not buy a new weapon for Kane yet.
Definitely. I think it makes sense to do this Magus Sister spot first. We don't have a good way of dealing with that foul. we can get through that, Val, just by swinging weapons, but keeping people alive is not gonna be a great time. So you might as well get through this Magus Sister spot. That's probably gonna be a bit easier. Once you have Mindy down, you're only dealing with those punches, which are only hitting Edge for 1 anyways with that adamant armor. And even if, you know, you get a reflected spell, as long as Edge is still swinging away, he has adamant armor on. Nothing that they cast is going to hurt all that much. And he will go for it. Meanwhile, Dragus taking another wipe from this Pale Dim here, and it looks like he's going to exit out too. That is good for Simbu, because it means that if that Pale Dim is required, Dragus is no longer going to have that advantage.
The actual magic that you would be normally worried about in the reflected sense is virus, because that still cuts through adamant. The other elements that Mindy throws out, not a threat at all. It's just the one spell. But taking out Mindy, because really just to get rid of the Mindy from being in the back, considered in the back row for Yang or even Kane. Although Kane probably just gonna be here throwing potions because not quite up to level yet. It's one of those know when to back row and know when to not engage from the back row. That's a smart play, especially when Mindy is the only one dealing the real damage anyways. So one less threat. Ed, hey, there's probably something buried under Baron.
That's a 2-for-1 as well. That is both checks there, both the throne and the basement. And also importantly, Dragus has decided to not attempt that evil wall on the way back down, headed straight back down to the planet instead. Simbu now ahead because Dragus is going to be following in Simbu's footsteps, probably going to check that heart, then going to head down to the Fame Arch. And this is actually a real good thing for Simbu. It's unfortunate the way it happened, Dragus taking a number of wipes on that Pale Dim. Just couldn't quite get around it, but the ball is back in Simbu's court now.
I think the back row adamant, because you don't want to do the evil wall without blink, so the next best thing is having a back row character doing damage. So your essentially Edge is going to be the character carrying the battle. Anything you get out of any other character is a bonus. So I think that's the actual plan. Just keep Edge, as long as it's not weak level HP, single digit HP, you're fine. Just let Edge swing, everyone keep Edge alive. And keep everyone else alive when you get a chance to. That makes sense because that's what better options do you have at this point? So, and Simbu takes care of Val. We'll see what that is though.
Definitely. And Dragus also taking the choice of not checking that heart. It makes a lot of sense, Dragus knows that he needs 2 key items to complete this seed. He needs that Sand Ruby and he needs that package. And he knows he has to come underground to turn in that forge at some point in time anyways. Why not go to the place that's going to give you 2 key items that's right there as opposed to the one that's going to give you 1, and then you're still probably stuck coming down to the Fame Arch anyways unless it's exactly Baron Key. So definitely a good move from Dragus there. Will be rewarded for it with that Baron Key. But Simbu gonna do a bit of stocking up on exits and grab a coffin as well. I think he'll check Baron first, but definitely looking like he knows he might have to make another moon dive here.
Probably do Forge before doing. You're already here in the underground. You do Forge, sell off whatever, or either take advantage or sell off whatever you get as the reward, and see if there's anything worthwhile. Maybe a crystal ring. Hopefully, ideally a crystal ring, or maybe a Dragoon Spear. Oh, no, that's tier 7. So, we'll see what's being sold. Hopefully, maybe a power shirt for the Kane that's kind of lagging behind. That might be on the table. We'll see what's on the table. Hey, that ring I was talking about. Oh no, not concerned about it yet. Yeah, well, here's the Fund Your War effort. Let's sell Bahamut. Radia being long ditched in the seed, but will be the first thing sold. So we'll see. I think we'll maybe get a pair of. Hoping in a pair. Maybe the defense sword. I mean, Gungnir is probably still be reasonably cheap and effective. But okay. defense sword is just as good.
I'm a big fan of the defense sword. Is technically speaking Kane's best weapon at most levels unless he's taking advantage of other bonuses there. So he's going to be happy with that. That'll get that Kane online. And he's going to go ahead straight up to this Baron check at this point in time. He knows that he still needs 2 key items, so there's no real big incentive to go down to the basement first, unless you just want to get it out of the way and then run up. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Now I think about it, it might actually be a better option. I should actually think before I speak sometimes. And going to go ahead and sweep through these 2 checks probably relatively easily.
Yeah, you want to do those checks. I mean, you're still looking for both the Sand Ruby and package. Both are still at large, and probably not worth checking Baron Shop, as you already have pretty much everything checked in the underground. So there really isn't anything in the Baron Shop that would be worth buying anyways. You've already had the access, and you already have the access. It's kind of like the shop is there, but do you need anything anymore? There's nothing more you can do if you've already bought the weapons for Edge and Kane. So though I would still probably go for the value proposition of buying a Gungnir, but a defense sword, so 30,000 more GP, it's fine. We're not gonna buy it. We're not gonna spend any more in the seat anyways.
Yeah, we might need a bit more money either way, but it looks like Dragus is going to go ahead, back up, check what's in that armor shop, and then head back here. I believe he might be out of tents or cabins, and is thus using the inn here before heading down to that Val spot. Meanwhile, Simbu going to get through this Leviathan here very, very easily at the Baigan spot. Probably, 1 swing, 2 swings, 3 swings, and then it should be gone. And yeah, he'll be on his way through Baron pretty quickly here.
Yep. I actually, Edge in the back row with Adamant. It's pretty much tank. Like so the Adamant armor has like a base 100 points of defense, and when you're in the back row, you essentially automatically get double defense. So there are very few bosses that can hit at 200 defense. Like they basically have to really roll pretty high. And Oda in this spot, pretty much any boss at this point, not a challenge. I'll still probably see a basement check, because you kind of can't. You have to kind of check everything. So I think this is just to open the axes up. I mean, you never know what could be in the basement. I don't think we have seen Plague, and Plague, at some spots can be a really nasty surprise when you are not anchored properly. Like the thing is, when you fight Plague, you want to actually be slower than Plague in most instances, as having a faster anchor actually speeds up your death count, which no one wants to take a part of that.
Yeah, the Plague, we actually have seen he was up at his vanilla location in that White Spear altar, but to that point, there are a few other bosses that we haven't seen yet. On the subject of Sparkles, we haven't seen Wyvern anywhere yet, I don't believe, unless I'm misremembering, and it was at the start of the seed, and that is a boss that wipes you instantly. The end. So you kind of need to work around that, and in some ways it definitely does make sense to just get through this instead. And finding an Earth Crystal for it is going to keep this chain going at very least, which is a good sign. That's what Simbu wants. He either wants to find exactly Package and Sand Ruby, or he wants the chain to keep going so he doesn't have to go back to the moon.
Yeah, there aren't too many terminal key items left. I mean, things that you don't really... The only thing that is the most nuisance zonk is the spoon, and that's, although we can there'll still be some use for the spoon. Although when you have a berserker heavy team, you can kind of skip that. I mean, there is still a demist. I think that's still around, so could be useful. And then unless demist is giving you the spoon, in which case, oh hey, turtle, not a big threat though at this spot given our current power level, at least it's for Simbu.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different bosses that you might be tempted to throw that spoon at too. I mean, you're gonna have to deal with like the evil wall up at that Bahamut spot. I would be tempted to throw a spoon in that evil wall just to get it done with quicker. Same with possibly if you're going to have a hard time with that pale dim down at the bottom of the moon, throw a spoon at it, dude. 10,000 damage, take that off the top. Maybe that in this case, we saw how far Dragus got into that fight before unfortunately taking a wipe. That could make the difference between clearing it and not. That spoon's a good thing to find, but it's also the worst thing to find. So let's probably cross our fingers here and hope that it's a package or a sand ruby here, although we are running out of locations either way.
I think in terms of this race, Simbu's very much ahead. I'm trying to really think of what the time differences are at this point. Dragus had essentially the character and level advantage for most of the seed. Hey, required item here. Simbu did not get the king early, and I think Kane is kind of being penalized indirectly because of that, but very much further ahead in essentially in checks and everything. Not maybe I haven't really thought of what things went in Simbu's favor, but maybe it's the kind of grinds that were happening. I feel there's a difference. I'm not sure exactly if that is the case.
Definitely. And now it's time for the most interesting thing, in which you probably think that Simbu should turn in this package right away, but we kind of got to leave that package sitting in the inventory for a while, or we're going to have to fight a boss in Kaipo when we go to turn the Sand Ruby in, sort of thing. So Simbu going to head straight up the Earth Crystal at this point in time to check this. This is sort of the last big chance at this point in time. There's only 3 possible checks left. One of them leads to Sand Ruby, one of them leads to Spoon, and one of them leads to none of the above. So Simbu definitely hoping that this one is the Sand Ruby and he can be done with this seed at this point. Meanwhile, Dragus, you're right that Simbu is ahead at this point. Dragus kind of following in Simbu's footsteps at this point. The big way that Dragus could get back into this seed at this point in time would be if he were to take a gamble on heading back up to the moon and not chasing, which might not happen here, but either way, this is going to be a very close race from here on out. It's really just down to the decisions.
Yeah. Obviously, it'd be worth taking a look back at this VOD and seeing what the actual differences are. But yeah, it's routing decisions often make you make different decisions. It's just like having this character then or having this character after a certain particular event. Definitely drives a runner to do a certain thing. And some runners have a preference of, and I think for the most part, both of them are kind of on the same mind in terms of what characters to pick up, the kind of strats used. But it's kind of the differences in when they do it. And sometimes, the seed kind of drives them in a way to do it a certain way. And it's different for every runner. So, it's not just rando being rando, but also, runners making decisions that may not seem like important at the time, but kind of will add up, and maybe we'll have an anchor replacement. I think both have done ordeals. So if we want Atella, here he is.
It's tempting if you want an anchor that you can just slap a curse string on. This is about the only character you might consider taking at this point over any of the other ones. And hey, there's another Tella. You want 2 Tellas? You can have all the Tellas you want. Go get another curse string. Get yourself 2 Tellas. Let's get going. Let's have neither of them ever hit any spell ever again with those curse strings on. But either way, those are 2 potential options, and it looks like Simbu is deciding to take neither of them here. Only interested in that key item.
Probably have Palm as the cursed target still. And this spot pretty well fast. These guys are jokers. Dr. Luge has all the chat, all the jokes. Maybe not as funny, because I wish those jokes don't hit as much as Luge and his speeches.
Yeah, definitely. We will see what the key item is here, though, as Simbu threw those and basically three swings of various swords and fists and lances and whatnot. And that is going to be this final Earth check here. To quickly answer a question from chat, Cecil and Fu are no longer in these flags. They cannot show up. So we're still missing Rosa. I believe we're still missing Porum as well. We have seen neither White Mage, if I'm remembering correctly. Both of those still options on the table, plus I believe a couple of dupes. So lots of options out there.
Reprise of music. We'll be quiet for now. It seems that the other twin is kind of sick in bed, and for the seed. So that's something. And Dragus has found the bad news. There is no key item for you here. That's lots of blessed music. No key item.
Definitely, but Simbu has found Go Mode at this point in time. Those two fades up on the moon, the evil wall, the pale dim down at the bottom of the moon at that Ogopogo altar. Neither one matters in this seed. It is all down to just completing this, turning in the package, sitting through this cutscene, and then he can fly straight to Troya and go to that final boss. So this has gone into full speed ahead at this point. It is Simbu's race to lose, but with this party setup, this is not an easy to win particular fight. There's a lot going for this party, but there's a lot of different pitfalls that could have happened in this case. So Simbu needs to really show what he's capable of in executing this Z fight and not have a wipe. Dragus needs to hope for that wipe in order to get back in at this point.
Yeah, so I think the plan primarily will be power overwhelming. I think with some facilitation from Palom, maybe Yang do say with a veil and reflecting some nuke. I'm not sure if Simbu has reached nuke levels up yet with Palom, but even then, it might be some reflected magic just to speed Z's demise is what I don't. But still time to get your quick grind. One egg or two to get Palom. It shouldn't be too long to get there, but yeah. And package and sand ruby objectives. Those I am never a fan of having both of them. It's just one blocks the other, and package is the more annoying block.
Definitely. The big question in my mind is, does Simbu have enough potions to get through this fight? Does he have enough to get through before that? Going to pick up some life potions and some cure 2s with his remaining money and head into this Aromas fight. This is going to be just completely different from any Zeromus fight I've seen in this tournament so far. I don't think I've seen one without access to a real sort of white mage at this point. So this is going to be a very fascinating play here.
Yeah, anytime when you go power overwhelming but don't have a white mage, there are a few things you can do, and none of them trivial. But before that, I see a lot of Z flags. I think I guess it's kind of early evening Eastern, so I guess I should go to bed early. But I'm not feeling that Z feeling yet. Are you?
I mean, I was planning on taking a nap after this race because I have plans for tonight, but I don't know what everyone else is, but no. We can't move Zeromus. Zeromus is iconic as a final boss. He's by far the most difficult boss in the game, and also there's a few little technical issues moving Zeromus around. I'm sure we could think around, but at this point in time, why not just leave him where he is and randomize the only thing that we can, his sprite, and ask the question, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And that is a dragon of some variety.
It's a pretty dragon. There is no hat. It does have a butt. But no. Is it cute? I can't question everyone's taste, but hey, at least it's a cute sprite. I'm still amused that I haven't paid enough attention to Simbu's naming convention, but I see an Oreo. I mean, that's must be a lot of cream filling in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be interesting to see, as chat was kind of pointing out, Simbu is one of the most resourceful players in this entire community. I'm thinking back to Zenith Zone 3, which some say is still ongoing to this day, and having the E can't run flag on to discourage D-Machine grinds. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that Simbu was one of the people who figured out the D-Machine manipulation for still doing D-Machine with the E can't run flag on, which, really sort of shows his resourcefulness and figuring out his way around problems. I think if there's many runners who can get through this, Twisted Flax was the other one, yes. The two of them figured it out. This is a runner who definitely knows how to get around a problem, and I'm interested in seeing how this fight goes right now.
Really, the primary person you want to keep online is Edge. That doesn't require too much, but when you think about it, you want to try to get the nerfs done and hope Yang will be standing a little bit longer, as Yang really can't avoid much in the ways of Big Bang. He's not one to accumulate magic evasion, let alone the multiplier. So, but Yang is going to be the most important character to keep Edge upright. Palom will eventually fall due to not having enough HP. If Palom falls, it doesn't fall in this point. That's good. That's great for Simbu. But there's a fair chance that even on a nerfed. Oh, this is bad. But Edge will probably still live. But Palom, if Palom is still up, Palom will probably might take not survive the Big Bang. So it's up to Yang to keep Edge essentially effectively upright, and there goes Palom.
This is not good. I believe that Yang is berserked. We have 3 berserkers up, and you can't have these berserkers up too long without actually taking down the Zeromus here, because part of the problem that Simbu is going to be facing here is not just that he's having to just use Alchemist Yang to get through this, but also he's doing Alchemist Yang with Cure 2 potions, which are only healing for about 400. There's the Meteo. This is still possible. Who does this hit? Who does it end up landing on? Kane goes down. We still have Yang up. We still have Edge up. This is definitely possible, but this is looking very close here.
A Cure 2 is not enough to keep Edge alive if the Meteo hits. So hoping it just hits Yang. Oh, this is enough. I think this is enough. Yang will only get 1 hit off, probably maybe 2 hits at best, but Edge is doing the work, and hey, it's over. Edge makes it happen, and Simbu wins this race.
very convincingly there, a time of 131.28. Simbu is going to take game one over Dragus here. We'll see if he wants to come in for an interview here, but definitely through this very, very tight, very tense Aromas fight here.
Yeah, adamant armor for all these things doesn't itself give you the ability just to avoid rocks immediately. You still have to get a decent amount of other stats and edge, while I think limited in getting willpower, still gets enough of agility, because he has natural decent agility growth, but wisdom as ninjas need that stat to make things happen.
Absolutely, and with that, we are joined by today's winner, Simbu. First of all, GG's on a very well-run race and a very interesting setup that you had to take through this flag set with what you ended up getting for characters throughout it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was quite the interesting team. Very early access underground with sirens and coffins available, so you immediately had Hallam ready, and then no white mages. But the seed gave you what you needed. You just had to figure out a way to purchase it or do something.
Definitely, this was really more of a puzzle than some of the other seeds that tend to be more of a straightforward run. What did you think of it in general? Once you got past that early spot, once you headed up to that moon, you really saw what the seed was going to sort of put you through at that point.
Moon didn't turn too nasty for me. The Peldim at the Ogopogo spot would have been really nasty with my team, but thankfully that wasn't required or didn't gate anything. Yeah, it was a little bit interesting because I had no armor ready for any of the hard-hitting spots up there, but then I got a couple free bosses. Well, I think every boss was in some way free. DKC was, oh, I have Yong, and then Plague was dealt with by the full moon, and then I think I had an hourglass for the guards, and Murasame Altar was that Water Hag. So yeah, everything I fought was extremely free.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sort of what goes through your mind when you're in a flag set or a seed like this, where you end up not having access to those white mages at all. I mean, you definitely showed your resourcefulness in getting through this seed, which did not really want to set you up in a great way, but was there sort of a temptation to maybe do more shopping, look for tier 3s, or were you just at a point where you were saying to yourself, all right, I'm good with what I have, I know I can get through, I'm just going to go for it?
I definitely made sure to stock up on Bacchus wines and hourglasses. That would give me a lot of ways to figure something out. Also to get some EXP if I needed it on trap chests or whatever needed to happen. So I had some safety nets. I would have liked more life potions. I had to conserve those a little bit. You would always love cabins when on the moon. And there's definitely a lot of tools that would have made it easier, but really it just comes down to Cure 3s would have been very nice for the Zeromus fight, but otherwise, if you have Bacchus and a Dream, that's all you need.
Definitely. So with this win, you end up going up to 1-0 over Dragus. Obviously, you have to win one more in order to make it into the round of 16. How are you feeling going into what will be match 2 whenever that ends up being scheduled?
So we are going to be playing on Friday. I believe it's at 8 p.m. Eastern. But just going to go about it pretty much the same way. I haven't had a ton of time to practice since been really busy. But I have played hundreds of flag sets that give you situations that can do anything, so I'm pretty confident in my versatility, so just going to see what comes up and do my best.
Definitely sounds good. Deathlike, did you have any questions for Simbu?
I think the only question is probably the biggest deviation between you and Dragus is when you got the darkness crystal. So what made you kind of what's the thinking to kind of defer when you went to the moon?
I mean, first off, moon checks have a smaller weighting than overworld checks, and I didn't have the equipment to full clear the moon regardless of what bosses were up there. If you have Adamant Armor Cecil, you can go anywhere, but we don't have Adamant Armor Cecil. If you have a Fu, you can get through a lot of things. I didn't really have a setup that would let me get through everything. I had something that could probably clear a lot of the moon if I decided to buy more sirens, but I only had 5 key items, I think 5 or 6 key items when I went to the moon. So it was just go for the higher probability slots. We've got a lot of objectives still left on the table. So just slowly and surely build up power until you can break through anything.
Right. Sorry, I meant to ask about the character check. Like, basically, like, you know, we knew you found that Kane was on the moon. Probably could have used Kane earlier, possibly. This is like Dragus picked up Kane earlier, so I just got wondering, you know, the thinking, like, so why, like, kind of delaying that check.
I had Quake Kid with Quake, I had Yang with HP, and I had Edge with Full Moon, Ninja Swords, and Bacchus Wine, so I could clear everything on the Earth very quickly except for Fey March, which those were kind of nasty bosses, which is why I put them off for quite a while. So I just didn't need another character if so there's no reason to trade out the power that I had. I had a perfect agility anchor in Rydia until it was time to go up and check, and Kane is going to help in the Zeromus fight more than Rydia with the team I had set up, so went for that. Yeah, there is just, again, if Fu is on the table, then you kind of almost are forced to go and check that character slot a lot earlier. But when Cecil and Fu are off the table, there's not that huge of a power disparity between most of your characters. Sure, if you have a Rydia and Edward with dancing daggers, you might want to try to look at the moon if you've got nothing else, but yeah, I just didn't feel a lack of power, so no needed to make a double trip up there.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't think that didn't hurt you, of course, as we see from the results. Yeah, that was an interesting sight. I mean, yeah, certainly. Having a Quake Kid and Yang is more than enough, and picking up the Edge, yeah. You just all you had to worry about was funding everything.
Yeah. And really it just comes down to I had a thought, but now I lost it. Yeah, I mean, the team's fine. You can solve most things with Edge and Palom. That's a very, very strong thing. I would have liked White Mages. I didn't have 10 key items, so really, I feel like you can change characters very easily before you get 10 key items and start to really rack up the EXP, but after you get 10 key items, you kind of want to have your party stabilize and really get them to as much power as possible. It's not great to switch afterwards, but before then, the power disparity is very low, so it's not hard to switch out characters. So even if I'm holding on to a Rydia who I'm going to switch out, I'm not losing a lot by not getting EXP on that Kane early.
Fair enough.
Definitely, I do want to break in just really quick to note that Dragus getting through the C fight in a little bit of a scary situation here with that Kane at about 400, with that Yang sitting on about 1600 overall. And just wanted to give that quick update. Simbu, did you have any final thoughts for us today?
No. Just looking forward to more bracket flags. I really mainly joined the tournament because of the bracket flags, and I think they're going to be a lot of fun.
Definitely, but thank you so much for joining us. Again, GG's on the race today. Make sure everyone watching, you give our runners a follow, both Simbu and Dragus. I believe Dragus has elected to forfeit this seed, which definitely is choice. We'll see if he wants to come in for an interview at this point in time. Sounds like he is not interested in coming in for an interview, which, you know, perfectly fair. We'll definitely see him in the next match on Friday here. And with that, I believe that is going to lead us then to the end of our broadcast today. Want to make sure that you all are aware of the wonderful slate of action that we have going on for the rest of the day today. Over on the Free Enterprise channel at 8 p.m., we have NG Dave versus Zyrak. And over on Free Enterprise 2 at 9 p.m., we have Flurry 14 versus X Pancras. Both of those are going to be very, very good matches to watch, so make sure you're joining us for those. And with that, I want to give a thank you behind the scenes to Scala Kitty on the restream, to Alchemy on the tracking, and a thank you to Deathlike, my co-commentator today. Any final thoughts for us today, Deathlike?
That was just a lot of fun. You know, seeds be seeds. They're interesting, and I'll just make sure that where we send out when you're off to, that you do not spoil the seed, because you know, let people watch, let them get their time, and there'll still be more seeds that will be rolled for sure.
I believe we are just going to do a sign off today, no raid. Again, make sure you join us at 8 p.m. over on the Free Enterprise channel. And if you're looking for other randomized as well, of course, and other content, make sure that you follow along on RPG Limit Break. I believe there are a couple of FF1 randomizer races tonight. I believe the first one is at 7:30 Eastern, should you be interested in tuning in for that. So make sure that you are joining us over here as well on our partner channel, RPG Limit Break. And for myself and the rest of the Restream team, we hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you wherever you end up next.
See you all next seed.